On a bright winter morning, widowed rancher Caleb Turner is caught off guard when his neighbor Madison Hale asks him a question he's avoided for 5 years: "Are you married?" His honest answer awakens buried grief, dangerous hope, and a past that refuses to stay hidden, forcing him to choose between waiting for the dead or fighting for the living. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. Caleb Turner had not stopped living the day his wife Rachel died. He had simply stopped choosing life. 5 winters had passed since the hospital room, since the stillness in Rachel's hand, since the moment he promised her, silently, desperately, that he would not betray what they had been by moving on. Since then, the ranch outside the city had become his shelter and his sentence. He worked from dawn to dusk, repaired fences no one complained about, and raised his 6-year-old daughter Lily with careful tenderness. Lily laughed, asked questions, dreamed of becoming a veterinarian. For her, Caleb stayed standing. For himself, he remained kneeling. Every night, after Lily fell asleep, Caleb drove beyond the fields and stopped at the cemetery. He spoke to a stone that never answered, waiting for permission that never came. The town's winter barn raising arrived on a bright morning, sunlight bouncing off fresh snow, laughter cutting through the cold. Caleb worked quietly among neighbors, stacking lumber, avoiding faces, until Madison Hale stepped into his path. She had moved into the neighboring ranch 6 months earlier. She didn't look like she belonged there. Her hands were uncalloused, her shoulders tense, her eyes alert in a way that spoke of survival rather than peace. She smelled faintly of beer and courage. "You seem to be good in bed," she said, voice trembling but deliberate. "Are you married?" The hammer slipped from Caleb's fingers. The field went silent. He looked at her, felt something stir, dangerous, unwelcome, alive. He answered honestly. "No, ma'am. I'm still waiting for her." Madison froze. Understanding crossed her face, followed by embarrassment and something like grief. She nodded once and walked away, leaving Caleb standing among half-built walls and unfinished lives. That night, he followed his familiar road to the cemetery. He knelt beside Rachel's grave, frost seeping through his jeans. "Tell me when I'm allowed to stop waiting," he whispered. "Today, a woman looked at me, and for 1 second, I forgot you were gone." Gravel shifted behind him. Madison stood a few steps away, tears tracing cold lines down her face. "So that's what you meant," she said quietly. Caleb rose slowly. "I didn't want to hurt you." "I know," she replied. "I didn't ask that question because I was careless. I asked because I've been watching you. The way you fix broken things. The way you hide from people. I needed to know if the man I'm falling for still exists, or if he died with her." She swallowed hard. "I ran from my husband. He treated me like property. I came here to hide, to remember what it feels like to be human again." Before Caleb could answer, headlights swept across the graves. A black luxury car rolled to a stop at the gate. Madison staggered back. "No, he wasn't supposed to find me." A tall man stepped out, composed and predatory. "Madison," he called calmly. "We're going home." "Victor Hale." Madison's fingers dug into Caleb's arm. "Please," she whispered. "I can't go back." Caleb stepped forward, placing himself between her and the man. For the first time in 5 years, he wasn't kneeling before the dead. He was standing for the living. Victor Hale stopped a few steps inside the cemetery gate, as if the ground itself belonged to him. He wore a tailored black coat, expensive shoes unsuited for snow, and the calm expression of a man accustomed to obedience. His eyes never left Madison. "Come here," he said evenly. "This nonsense is over." Madison trembled behind Caleb, her fingers still clutching his arm. Caleb could feel how hard she was shaking. Not panic, memory. The kind that lived in the body long after the bruises faded. "She's not going anywhere," Caleb said. Victor finally looked at him. His gaze moved slowly, assessing, dismissive. "And who are you supposed to be?" Victor asked. "The help?" Caleb didn't flinch. "I'm the man standing between you and her." Victor smiled faintly. "You don't understand the situation. Madison is my wife. We're married. That makes this a private matter." Madison shook her head. "We're divorced." Victor's smile tightened. "No, sweetheart. You ran. You didn't finish the paperwork. You didn't show up to court. That means we're still married. And this land," he glanced around the cemetery, amused, "and the ranch you're hiding on? It's joint property." Caleb felt the words hit her like blows. "You don't own her," Caleb said. Victor laughed softly. "That's adorable. You think this is about feelings?" His hand slipped into his coat. "This is about contracts." Madison gasped. The gun came out smoothly, like it belonged there. "Victor," she whispered. "Please." Caleb stepped forward without thinking. "Put it away." Victor raised the gun, not pointing it yet, but letting it be seen. "Step aside. This doesn't concern you." Behind Caleb, the wind shifted. He thought of Lily asleep in her bed, of the way she smiled when she thought he was watching. He thought of 5 years spent kneeling before the dead. "No," Caleb said quietly. "It concerns me." Victor's eyes hardened. "You're a widower, aren't you?" he said casually. "Still talking to a grave. Still waiting for permission from a woman who's never coming back." The words were meant to break him. They didn't. Caleb took another step forward. "You don't know the first thing about marriage," Caleb said. "You don't protect. You don't wait. You don't love. You just take." Victor cocked the gun. Madison screamed Caleb's name. The shot rang out. The bullet struck iron fencing, sparks flying. Caleb lunged, grabbing Victor's wrist. They crashed to the frozen ground, fighting for control. Victor was bigger, stronger, but Caleb fought with something Victor had never known: purpose. The gun skidded across the gravel. Madison ran for it. She picked it up, hands shaking, pointing it at the man who had haunted her life. "Don't," Victor said softly, changing tactics. "You're not a killer. You never were." Madison's breath hitched. Then she straightened. "No," she said. "But I'm done being owned." Sirens wailed in the distance. Victor froze. The sheriff's cruiser lights appeared beyond the gate. Moments later, Victor was in handcuffs, shouting threats that sounded suddenly small. When it was over, Madison collapsed against Caleb, sobbing. He held her, feeling her heart race, knowing something inside him had finally shifted. That night, Caleb did not go to the cemetery. He went home to Lily. And for the first time, he slept without asking the dead for permission. Victor Hale's arrest did not bring silence. It brought paperwork, questions, lawyers, and a kind of attention Madison had spent months running from. The sheriff ruled the shooting self-defense, the gun registered to Victor, the divorce quietly finalized weeks earlier without his knowledge. Still, the world did not suddenly feel safe. For Madison, freedom came with shaking hands and sleepless nights. For Caleb, it came with guilt. The morning after the cemetery, sunlight filled the kitchen as Caleb made pancakes for Lily. She sat at the table in mismatched socks, humming to herself, blissfully unaware of how close her life had come to changing forever. "Daddy," she said suddenly, syrup on her chin. "Why didn't you go visit Mommy last night?" The question hit him harder than Victor ever had. Caleb froze, spatula in hand. "I stayed home," he said carefully. Lily studied him with the seriousness only children possessed. Did Mommy say it was okay? Caleb swallowed. He knelt beside her chair. Mommy loves us, he said. But she doesn't need me to visit every night to know that. Lily nodded slowly, accepting the answer, but something had shifted. Madison stayed at the ranch that day, sitting on the porch wrapped in a borrowed coat, staring at the horizon like she expected danger to rise out of it. Caleb brought her coffee without asking. I keep waiting for him to come back, she admitted. Like my body doesn't believe it's over. It might take time, Caleb said. I waited 5 years for permission that never came. Madison looked at him. And now? He hesitated. Now I don't know who I am without waiting. That afternoon, a lawyer arrived. Victor had filed claims, against the ranch, against Madison's credibility, against Caleb for assault. The threats were paper now, not fists or guns, but they still cut deep. I'm sorry, Madison said quietly after the man left. I didn't mean to drag you into this. Caleb shook his head. You didn't drag me. I stepped forward. That night, Lily woke from a nightmare. Caleb rushed in to find her shaking, eyes wide. There was a bad man, she whispered. And you were gone. He pulled her close, heart pounding. I'm here, he said. I'm not going anywhere. She clung to him fiercely. Promise? Caleb closed his eyes. 5 years ago, he had promised a dying woman something he could never keep. This time, he chose carefully. I promise to choose you, he said. Every day. In the quiet weeks that followed, Madison began helping around the ranch. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to learn what staying felt like. Lily followed her everywhere, asking endless questions, testing trust with innocent certainty. One evening, Lily handed Madison a crayon drawing. It showed 3 figures. 1 small. 2 tall. No graves. No fences. Madison's hands trembled. Is this, me? Lily smiled. You're the one who stayed. Later that night, Caleb stood alone by Rachel's grave for the first time in weeks. He didn't kneel. I loved you, he said softly. I still do. But I can't live here anymore. The wind moved through the trees, carrying no answer. For once, that was enough. Because choosing life, Caleb was learning, didn't erase the dead. It honored them by continuing. Victor Hale did not disappear quietly. When he could no longer reach Madison with threats or force, he turned to paper and reputation. Lawsuits arrived by mail. Rumors followed. A quiet whisper began moving through town, that Madison was unstable, that Caleb was reckless, that the night at the cemetery had been exaggerated. Caleb ignored most of it. Until the sheriff knocked on his door. Victor was filing for a restraining order against him, claiming assault, emotional manipulation, and unlawful interference with marital property. It was absurd. It was also dangerous. You need to be careful, the sheriff warned. People like Victor don't need truth. They need doubt. Madison sat at the kitchen table afterward, pale and silent. This is why I ran, she said finally. He doesn't stop. Caleb looked at Lily playing on the floor, lining up toy horses. Neither do I. The court date came quickly. The small-town courtroom filled with curious faces. Victor arrived in a tailored suit, looking calm, wounded, reasonable. Madison's hands shook as she took her seat beside Caleb. When Victor spoke, his voice was soft and controlled. He painted himself as a concerned husband, a man betrayed and humiliated, a victim of emotional manipulation. Then Madison stood. Her voice shook at first. Then steadied. She spoke of ownership disguised as love. Of fear mistaken for obedience. Of how running had been the first brave thing she'd ever done. "I wasn't rescued," she said clearly. "I rescued myself. Caleb just stood where I needed someone to stand." Caleb testified last. He spoke plainly. About grief. About waiting. About how easy it was to kneel before the dead and how hard it was to stand for the living. "I didn't act out of anger," he said. "I acted because no one owns another person. And because my daughter was watching." Lily sat in the back row, feet swinging, eyes fixed on her father. The judge denied Victor's motion. Victor left the courtroom smiling thinly, but something in his eyes had broken. That evening, as sunlight stretched across the snow-covered fields, Lily tugged Caleb's sleeve. "Daddy," she said. "Are we a family now?" The question stopped him cold. Madison held her breath. Caleb knelt, choosing his words carefully. "Families are built by people who choose each other," he said. "Every day." Lily considered this. Then she nodded. "I choose her." Madison laughed through tears. That night, Caleb and Madison stood on the porch watching the stars burn bright over the ranch. "I don't know how to love without fear," Madison admitted. Caleb took her hand. "Then we learn." Slowly. Honestly. For the first time, Caleb did not feel like he was betraying the past. He felt like he was building a future. And somewhere deep inside, the waiting finally ended. Winter softened as the weeks passed. The snow still came, but it no longer felt endless. Sunlight lingered longer on the fields, and the ranch slowly stopped feeling like a place frozen in time. Madison no longer startled at every sound. Lily stopped asking whether bad men could come back. And Caleb, quietly, without announcing it, stopped waiting. The legal noise faded. Victor's final attempts at control collapsed under their own weight. His threats lost power once Madison refused to flinch from them. The ranch remained hers. The past, finally, stayed where it belonged. One morning, Lily stood at the window watching Madison fix a loose board on the fence. "She's bad at hammering," Lily said seriously. Caleb smiled. "She's learning." "So are you," Lily replied. The truth of it surprised him. Caleb had learned how to sit beside Madison without trying to save her. Learned how to listen when fear returned instead of pretending it wouldn't. Learned how to let Lily see him struggle, and still stand. One clear winter afternoon, Caleb returned to the cemetery for the last time. He stood before Rachel's grave, hands in his coat pockets. He did not kneel. "I loved you," he said softly. "That hasn't changed. But I can't stay here anymore." The wind moved through the trees. No sign came. No permission was given. And for the first time, Caleb understood that none was needed. That evening, he made dinner while Madison and Lily laughed at the table. The sound felt unfamiliar, and right. Afterward, as the sun dipped low and the snow glowed gold, Caleb took Madison's hand outside. "I'm not asking you to replace anything," he said. "I'm asking if you'll build something new with me." Madison looked at him, really looked, and nodded. "Yes," she said. Without fear. A year later, under a bright winter sky, Caleb stood in the same field where everything had begun. The barn stood finished now. Strong. Whole. Lily, bundled in a blue coat, grinned from ear to ear as Caleb turned to Madison. "Will you marry me?" he asked simply. Madison laughed and cried at the same time. "Yes," she said. "I already chose you." As applause rose around them, Lily ran forward and hugged them both. Later that night, as stars burned sharp above the snow, Caleb thought about the question that had changed his life. "Are you married?" He finally understood the answer. He had been married to grief. To waiting. To fear. And letting go had not been betrayal. It had been survival. Being good in bed, Caleb realized, had never been about bodies. It was about being good at living. About choosing the living over the dead. And daring to love again. The waiting was over. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.